Hey, everybody. Welcome. We are talking discovery calls today. If you want to know how to nail the sale during a discovery call, this live stream, or if you're watching the replay, this replay is for you. And this is going to be a really awesome time. Every single week here at the Virtual Savvy, we go live and we dive into a topic that's of interest to you guys. And we get questions all the time about how do I do a discovery call? What is a discovery call? How do I really, make sure that my discovery calls are resulting in clients. So I'm joined here today by the one and only Miss Sara Austin. Hi, Sara.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm so good. So
Good.
we are here. I'll change our little thing there. People can see us a little better. Okay, so I'm so excited for this because if you guys don't know, Sara is our tech director here at the Virtual Savvy. But before that, she was a SavvySystem student and a student who found success very quickly. She was actually able to, be fully booked within 3 months of starting the course. And she just really has so much to say about how to do discovery calls well. So this is going to be a really awesome discussion. But for everybody here in the comments, let me know what's the biggest question you have about discovery calls. Let me know in the comments, because at the very end, we'll go through and we'll answer your questions and we'll just do a fun little Q&A time. But let's start out with this. Hi, Sara.
Hi.
How are you?
I am so good. I am so pumped for this live. I've been so excited about it. It's just a topic that I'm so incredibly passionate about because it is the one thing that can make or break success in your business. So
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just start off and a little bit about, who are you? What do you do here at the Virtual Savvy? And then maybe start telling us a little bit about just your journey in virtual assistants. Let's do a Sara Austin download for people who don't know who you are.
All right, I'll give you the download. So, like Abby said, my name is Sara Austin. I'm the tech director here at the Virtual Savvy. I started in November, so I've been here for a fairly short amount of time, but it has been incredible. Absolutely love the Virtual Savvy and everything it's about. So, my passions are like on fire right now. A little bit about my journey in virtual assistants. I actually have a very unique story in the fact that I was working in music ministry and I was pregnant with my little boy at the time. And I believed that the stresses from this job caused me to go into preterm labor. And I delivered him at 32 weeks. He was 3 pounds. And so that was just a very stressful work environment. And I think I just had a lot of experiences with unfortunate bosses that I always had. And so I had a lot of passion for being my own boss, as well as just being able to be at home with my kids more, especially after the trauma of that birth. So then I became pregnant with my second child. And from there, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to do something different. So I started Googling. I think everybody's been here. Googled the whole.
So then I Googled. That's how it all starts.
Yes. Work from home. What can I do? Work from home. Came across the Virtual Savvy. And so I'm like super skeptical. So I'm like the most skeptic person that you'll ever meet. So I was like, there's no way that this is the real deal or that I can have any success with this. So I did not invest in the SavvySystem immediately. I actually used the free starter checklist kit and everything. I dove deep into all of your free resources and started my business that way. And so then I was like, okay, this is the real deal. I started making money with it. I was like, holy moly, this is incredible. So I knew exactly that I wanted to invest into the SavvySystem. At the time, it was actually the VA boot camp. But I invested. And then from there, it was about 3 months before I had replaced my full-time income. And then I still didn't believe that this was real life. So I waited an additional 2 months before I put in a notice at my job. So about 5 months from beginning to end, I So that was kind of my business story.
That's amazing.
And on top of that, all that, so I did this all while I was pregnant. And then my second baby, I was running my business at the time. She was a beautiful full-term 7-pound, 7-ounce baby. So obviously my stress levels were significantly lower.
It's like, that's saying a lot considering, you know, like you were starting a business can be relatively stressful. So the fact that your previous job was even more stressful than than starting a business is definitely saying a lot. So such an incredible story, and thank you so much for sharing that. So tell me a little bit, because so we're getting, and I'm seeing the questions here, such good questions, but I feel like a lot of them are like, what questions do I ask, right? And I feel like before we dive into like, oh, here are the specific questions you should ask on a discovery call, I feel like we should go a little bit more like big picture first, because you probably know this as well as anybody who's been doing virtual assistants, who has gone down this road, who is especially someone who's been successful in this road, is that there's a lot more than just having the right questions, right? Like we could just give you a list of questions right now and you could go and your discovery calls would still probably not be wonderful, because it's so much more than just the question. So let's talk about that first. So what do you think, you know, how have you kind of, how do you perfect the discovery call? Like beyond just, you know, beyond just like, what questions should I ask? What are some of the bigger picture ways that you can get better at discovery calls? Because I think that, well, actually, let's first, does everybody know what a discovery call is? Like, explain what a discovery call is first, for those people who are like, I just jumped on here for the first time, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. So a discovery call is whenever you've pitched that client and it's the very first meeting that you have with them. So you have, normally, this is the way my process works. You have a point of contact with them, normally where they have reached out to you or you have reached out to them, and you've kind of discussed, hey, this may be a fit for me, or I want to know more about your services. And then from there you go, okay, let's have a discovery call. Yeah. So you hop on this discovery call and you go through all of the things. This is your opportunity to tell them all about your business and what you can offer them. And then the hope is that whenever you get to the end of that discovery call, you can have either a client who is like, yes, I want to get started, or a client who like, I'm going to think about this for a minute. And then you're going to convince them and make them comfortable enough to book with you.
Awesome. Yeah. So it's definitely, it's kind of it's the glue that connects like prospect to client. And that's, it's this discovery call is really, and it's not just, I feel like it's not just, you know, is it like you trying to pitch them and trying to get them to be your client, but I think it's for you too. Like, is this person going to be a good fit for me? Because you may get to the end of the discovery call and realize they may be like ready to hire you, and you're like, red flags, red flags, red flags. This is not a person I want to work with, right? So I think it's definitely for both of you. Okay, so now that we know what a discovery call is, let's talk about like how do you perfect, big picture? How do you just get better at discovery calls?
Well, the number one way to get better at discovery calls is to do discovery calls.
Exactly.
I mean, you have to learn by experience for sure. So just putting yourself out there, getting on with discovery calls with people, even if you're unsure of whether it will be a good fit or not, it's just a really great opportunity to get comfortable with it. If you're not super comfortable having a meeting with someone or being, you know, virtual face-to-face with somebody on Zoom, it's a very, very good thing to practice. Practice makes perfect, you know, sometimes. But that's definitely the goal. It's very similar in that you're interviewing a little bit. It's a very similar setup. So if you're going to go to a really, really important job interview, you're going to practice, right? You can Google all the practice questions and practice with your friends or your husband, whoever, and you're going to practice for that. So that's essentially the same thing whenever it comes into a discovery call. You want to prep and you want to practice and you want to just keep doing them. And the more and more that you do them and the more that you have success with them, the more confident you're going to be. And then the higher that conversion rate is going to be off of your discovery call into a paid client.
For sure. Oh, so good. Yeah. I think that we all need to give ourselves the grace to realize your first discovery call is probably going to be terrible. And that's okay. It's totally fine. We all had our first discovery call. We all had those moments, where it was like, did you I'm trying to think of any examples off the bat. Did you ever have a discovery call that was just flat on your face? Terrible. Now share your most embarrassing moment. Go.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know that I ever had a discovery call that I just fell completely flat on my face.
Right.
Because I'm a huge planner.
Yeah.
But I definitely had discovery calls where I just was not confident. I fumbled over my words. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it's just that weird silence, I don't know what to say, and you're not talking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it comes to those two things, the two things that you can do. How do you perfect the discovery call? It's practice and a plan. And so the practice part, like you said, you can practice with friends or whatever, but that just kind of comes with experience. That's just the more you do it. But so how can you, if those two things are going to make your discovery calls better, what you can really do is have a plan. And even if your practice is lacking, if you go in really with a plan, that's going to help too. If you go in without practice and without a plan, that's where you're going to struggle. And so it sounds like you never really went in without a plan. So I was looking at your notes, you've pretty much just always nailed your discovery calls, which I think is awesome. We don't always have to have this, I was terrible and then got amazing. You were just amazing from the beginning. No, but how many, did you ever, I think it said you had two, right? Two.
I went back and really counted. I think I've only ever not booked 2 discovery calls into a paying client.
That's amazing.
And that is really just a plan, flexibility, and we can dive deeper into this, but really listening to them. Mm-hmm. And, you have to make sure you're making a plan, but you have to be very flexible with your plan too. And, you want to touch on their pain points and, all those things. Yeah. But one of the notes that I had written down that I want to share is whenever you start hitting that wall and you're not having successful discovery calls and you've made a plan, keep trying, but don't keep trying the same thing.
Right.
So, keep trying and keep doing, but you also need to keep changing and morphing your process and what you're talking about and how you're presenting it to the potential client on the other end, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love all of this. Okay. So practice and a plan. Those are the two things. And what those two things do is that they give you confidence, in my opinion. Right. I think that the reason people struggle the most on discovery calls is usually just because they're not confident. It's usually because they're just kind of oh, timid. Yeah, this is my rate, but I'll lower it for you if you want. Or, so getting more confidence comes with practice and a plan. Okay, awesome. So you've practiced, you have a plan. Let's talk actually about the call itself, right? What is it? What steps do you take to actually nail the sale in your discovery call? This is the meat. So what do I actually do? I'm on, here is a client, I'm ready to go. How do I make this awesome?
Yes. So this is pretty much, what does your plan say that you are going to talk about? You need to go into your meeting knowing exactly what you're going to talk about. So my time frame or my mindset is always, what am I going to say if this person is not a talkative person and they have nothing to say this entire time? What am I going to talk about? Mm-hmm. Normally, they're going to be very conversational and ask you questions, and it'll be a natural groove. But I always prepare as if they're not a talker. So for me specifically, the first thing that I say is, tell me about your business. Like before I say anything else, tell me about you. Tell me about your business. What are your pain points? What are you stressed out about right now? What is the most complicated black cloud over your head in your business right now? And then I allow space for them to talk.
Yeah.
And so this is normally where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed with this, and this, and this. And they give you like 30 things because they've come to you because they're overwhelmed and they need help. So I normally, after that, I just try to connect with them and I make it very personal and I very intently listen to what they have to say. And I try to go back and touch on each one of those items that they have expressed stress over. Now, if they're the person that mentions 50 million things and you're like, okay, we kind of need to rein this in a little bit. I will ask questions like, what is most stressful to you right now? Or if you had to give up one thing, just pass off one thing to somebody, what is that one thing that I could do for you right now? And so that's generally where I go with that. My camera got super blurry. I know.
Mine does it all the time. I have to like do this and then pull back.
There we go.
I made mine blurry by doing that. There we go. Perfect.
Yeah. So
camera hacks. You're also learning camera hacks.
Camera hacks. Yeah. Definitely make it very personable. And then you just want to make it very known. So up to this point in the meeting, it's been all about them. You want to make sure that they know that you care about their business. You are not in this meeting because you're trying to get money out of them or you just need to book another client or, anything like that. You truly care about them. The passion of your business is to take the overwhelm off of their shoulders. And so you want to express that to them and you want to express that you want to be alongside them to help their business thrive.
Yeah.
So at this point, you've now established a very personable, friendly, I care about you atmosphere, which is going to really open them up, make them feel very comfortable with you. So that's the purpose of the very beginning of the meeting. And I had a note here that says, make a personal connection and you're about 70% through nailing the sale.
It's so true.
Yeah, that is, it's all about personal connections. If you can find any way to connect with them on a personal level, they're going to feel more invested in you.
Yeah.
Already.
Totally.
You're not just going to be
Sorry. I'm like getting excited about this.
No, go ahead.
I'm really good at interrupting. Don't do what I'm doing. Don't interrupt the person. You make a place to talk, Abby. Sarah's best advice. Okay, so now I'm going to talk. No, it's so good though because think about this. Okay, everybody, we're gonna paint a scenario for you. You walk into a networking event, right? And you don't know because this is pre-COVID. Nobody has masks on. It's a glorious world. Yeah. You walk into a networking event and it's the room is filled with people and you don't know a single person there. Okay. And you're like, all right, I came to this networking event. I'm going to talk to people. I'm not just going to sit in a corner. I'm going to do this thing. So you get up the guts to go and you talk to somebody and, you walk up to somebody who's kind of standing by themselves. You introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Abby. What's your name? Oh, I'm Sarah, oh, awesome. So nice to meet you. Tell me about your business. What do you do? Right. And they start talking about their business. In talking about their business, they mention, oh, I actually started this business when I was pregnant. Sarah, did you know I started my business when I was pregnant too?
You did? Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? We're crazy people, aren't we?
We are crazy people.
Okay, immediately, our voices went up, we smiled, we got more excited, and there's a connection that happens. It's we have something in common, right? And so and I think that's why, and I'm not sure if we mentioned this, but one of the other things that goes into that practice and preparation, right? Having a plan is practice, preparation, plan. Look, the 3 P's of discovery calls. Boom.
There you go.
Okay, so, but part of your preparation, I really think, is doing your research. look at this person's Facebook, go on their Instagram, read their, go through a couple days of like their stories or their highlights on Instagram and see if there's like some personal connection that you already know about. And I mean, you can ask questions that kind of like, oh, tell me about you personally. I saw that you live in Colorado or whatever. Like you can kind of like ask leading questions, or you can be like, okay, this might be totally crazy, but I looked you up on Instagram and I saw that you have this dog and I have the same dog, like literally it can just be this, whatever, that personal connection. You think that it doesn't, like, oh, it might just be a little silly thing. But like you said, that could be the thing that makes them feel comfortable enough to actually let you in and tell you problems about their business, to really open up about where they're struggling because you formed a personal connection with them. I think that's huge.
Yeah. And you will be surprised at the amount of people who have made comments to me in the discovery call after I've referenced their website or their social media or whatever. And they're like, thank you for taking the time to look at that. Because even if you take 10 minutes to just kind of really quickly glance through their website and their social media account or whatever and say, yeah, well, I saw this on your social media account, they're just like blown away because it's just one more thing that you're invested in, one more personal step that you took.
100%. All right. Yeah. What else? How else do we nail the sale in your call?
So that's the first half of your discovery call. The second half of your discovery call, now they've shared with you all of these pain points. They've shared with you, you've made this personal connection. Now what? you know what they need help with now. You're going to say something like, here's how I'm going to help you. And you're just going to bam, lay it out. And that verbiage is really, really important because you do not want to say, I think I can help you with this, or I think that this would be a good idea, or I think, using that word think, because you want to come off as very confident. So just go ahead and say, here's how I'm planning to help you, or here's how I'm going to help you when you become my client, because I already know you're going to be my client, kind of giving off that vibe of confidence a little bit. So here's how I'm going to help you. We're going to start with this. So we're going to start with getting all of your social media accounts together, and then we're going to create a game plan for posting or creating this graphic, whatever it is that they're needing help with. So here's exactly how I'm going to help you. And you need to make sure that you're including extremely clear next steps of what you're going to do that touch on their pain points. And you can kind of prepare these before the meeting, because odds are before you get on the discovery call, you know what they need help with. But the first half of that meeting, you're just kind of letting them reiterate it to you, and you're getting a little deeper into what they have expressed. But you can go ahead and prepare ahead of the meeting that, well, this is what they need help with. So here is my tentative plan of exactly what I'm going to do. Yeah. So now that you're like giving them, here's how I'm going to help you, bam, bam, bam. And then you can let them conversate back with you a little bit, then give you their opinions on that. Normally it's like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And that's wonderful. That would be such a blessing and such a stress reliever. You're going to hear things like that. And then from there, you're going to say, okay, well, the next step is, and you're going to say, this is exactly what we're going to do next. And it would be the next step in whatever your onboarding process is. Right. So my biggest thing I have to say is that before you can really nail a sale, you have to have a process from here's how I'm going to get them on a discovery call to here's how I'm going to get them to become a paid client. And then what is your onboarding process? So that way, when you're in your discovery call, you can say, this is the onboarding process. So as soon as we get off of this call, I'm going to email you with a rundown of what we just talked about, the recommended package, your invoice link, your contract, and a link to set up our onboarding meeting. And in our onboarding meeting, we're going to talk about and just go through the whole thing. So whenever you have a process like that you can go ahead and say, this is exactly what we're going to do next when you decide to become a client, which I know you will because you're in love with me already because we've made a personal connection, then you're going to nail the sale every time.
Yes. And I put a link in the chat and I'll drop it here too. You can go to thevirtualsavvy.com/onboarding. We have a really detailed blog post that talks about these different elements, right? Like how someone schedules the call, how to prepare for your discovery call, follow-up notes, sending the contract. It kind of goes through that onboarding process, right? And we do even have, we have something that you can, that we sell that even has like some of the templates and things, but this blog post, it's free. It goes through and it tells you what each of those steps in your onboarding method should be. So this is part of that prepare factor. Read this blog post, make sure you know what the next steps are, right? Because if the client's saying, what are my next steps? And you're saying, okay, well, I think we need a contract, right? Like that's not going to go over well. Yeah, we need a contract and an invoice. Those are essentially in our system, the Savvy system, it's essentially a contract, an invoice, and a setup call. You know, like your onboarding call is what we kind of walk you through. That's going to be their next step after they've paid their invoice and done their contract. So you want to know those steps. You want to go into it just so you can say, all right, here's the next steps for working with me. I love it.
Right. And you would be surprised whenever you get to the end of that call and you've given them all the steps, how many people will be like, okay, when can I pay you? Like when can we do our onboarding meeting? Like tomorrow? Yeah, you'll be surprised at how much they love having that system and process, because really that's what they're coming to you for.
Yep. Totally. Awesome. Okay. So I know we have a ton of questions in the chat, so I want to get to those. But before that, let's just do kind of a general, like, what advice would you give to someone who hasn't landed their first client yet? Because I think that there's a lot of people here that are probably, and let me know in the comments if this is you. I think there's a lot of people that are like, this all sounds amazing. I will prepare all of this, but like, I've never even had a discovery call. Like I am not even close to that. Or, just in general, what's kind of your advice? Because you're obviously great at landing clients. So what's your advice to kind of the newer people or people who are struggling in this area?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is that you just need to create your process. You need to know how are you going to get the discovery call? And then we're just talking here about what you're going to do in the discovery call. And then what are you going to do after? Yeah. So if I ask you, what's your process from beginning to getting client to starting work, and you can't say, well, I do this and this and this, then your process is probably not refined enough. And you need to go back and really look at it. So that's definitely going to be the first thing that I'm going to say. After that, it's going to be soak up all of the incredible resources that the Virtual Savvy has to offer. Because you guys, there's so many good free resources out there. And that's exactly what I did. Read all the blog posts, look at all of go to the swag tab on the website, download all the things, read them all, do them all, and you're going to be really on your path to success if you do that. And just be a sponge, absorb everything, learn from everything, ask questions in our community, learn from the past calls that you have had. And like I said, kind of in the beginning, you just have to keep trying and keep trying something different every time until you figure out what works for you. Okay. Because even though we're giving you the general frame of what this is going to look like, the exact things are not going to work for you that might work for me. Right. It might work, but it might be something a little bit different, or tweak it here, tweak it there, that works for you. And so you just kind of have to work through that yourself. And then the last thing I would say is just make sure that you listen to the clients, because sometimes we can get so caught up in planning. Okay, we're on the call. Here's what I'm going to talk about. And then you forget, oh, wait, I should be a two-way conversation. Yeah. So listen to them, listen to what they have to say, and then really just communicate with them that you care about those pain points that they have and that you want to help them. That is my top three. I love it. My top three.
So many golden nuggets here, guys. Do more of what works and less of what doesn't. It's like, It's like that will solve most of your problems, right? And I think that it is just a lot of times. Oh, I'm getting feedback. Oops. Trying different things to find out what actually does work, right? And so, I mean, we all have a process, and you can even lay it out like, okay, I noticed that I'm getting like, are you getting discovery calls at all, right? Like, if you're not getting discovery calls, then then your snag in the system is your marketing. It's that you're not connecting with the right people in general. You're not drumming up enough interest in your services to even get discovery calls, right? So if that's your snag in the system, then your first focus needs to be marketing, which, by the way, speaking of free resources, we have a training all about marketing, right? It's called Become a Booked Out Virtual Assistant. And this is a free training on how to market. So if marketing is your snag in the system, get better at marketing. Okay, yay. Now I actually have discovery calls coming. Like, I'm getting clients. I'm actually landing discovery calls. My calendar is getting booked with calls, but I'm still not signing clients. Okay, then your snag is likely your discovery calls. And that's where you go back and you know what we're talking about here. You plan more, you prepare more, you practice more, you research everything about discovery calls. Maybe you just feel amazing at the discovery call, but you realize that almost everybody has like objections and you don't know how to face those objections. Okay, then your snag in the system is facing objections. So become a master at facing objections, right? That's in our SavvySystem course, we have a whole lesson on facing objections. So if they say, you know, I think this is too expensive, or I need to think about it a while, or whatever their objection may be, you have a response to say to those things. So again, that's all part of planning and preparing, is knowing what those different objections may be and how you're going to respond. The more you can plan that, the better. And then maybe it's that you're getting off the call, but they're not, and it all seems good. It seems like it all went well, but they don't actually ever sign the contract, right? They don't. So maybe your follow-up process is the snag. So I think you have to look at it in kind of different phases and be like, what's the snag in my system? And how do I just really zero in and get awesome at that one thing, right?
Right.
Okay. Yay. Anything else? Because I want to jump in and do some Q&A, but if we forgot something, then like definitely this is Sara Austin wisdom time. So like, what else? Is there anything else that we missed in this conversation?
The only other thing that I think I would go back and touch on is if you're not getting that discovery call booked. I think that first touch point that you have with the client is super important. So whether they come to you or you go to them, my process, I just would love to share a little bit about it. I send just the most incredible email ever. I should just mark it as like the most incredible Sara email ever. But I can't because it came from Virtual Savvy. Look at the resources, guys. So in this email, I will say, hey, my name is Sara and this is my business. And this is like my top 3 services that I offer. And from there, I will say something like, make a personal connection, generally somewhere in the email. And the thing that I do that I feel like is just like the top of the cup of tea, whatever, something very cool, is I record a personalized loom for every single discovery email, whatever you want to call it, touch point that I send to a potential discovery call client. Yeah. So and it doesn't have to be long, 2 or 3 minutes. I start my loom recorder. I'm like, hey, my name's Sara. This is basically what I say in the email, but video version. And then I try to make a personal connection in the email or in the Loom video as well. And then I will link that into the email that I send and say, I wanted to introduce myself to you personally, or here's a little bit about me, and I'll link the video. And in the video, I mention their name. Okay. So they know that it is specifically recorded for them. Yes. And then, any other way that you can personalize it. And you have no idea how many people have made comments about that. And I can't say that that's my idea because I got it from Abby, but it
works though.
It works. Oh my gosh. They love it. Like I have had people that are like wanting to book with me because I recorded a 3-minute video for them. It's so much more personal than anything they've ever gotten. Because if you put yourself in the business owner shoes, they're dealing with a lot of other business people, and it's just not common practice for most business people to send a personal video of themselves saying, hey, I would really like to work with you or talk with you, or, or whatever. That's just not normal. So when they see it, they're blown away, and they're like, absolutely, I need to get on a call with this person. They're already a fan. And then everything in your discovery call, and then you have a client. I think that touch point, that email, make a template, something that works for you. Go dig into the resources. I think there's a template out there somewhere for this.
Yeah. So if you go to the virtualsavvy.com/swag, my team can put it in the comments. We have something called the personal outreach template, and you can use that. Now that's to send that can be to send to business owners or to people who aren't business owners even. But if it's a business owner, then I would definitely include this element of the video. I think that's, like you said, that's the cherry on top. That's it's a personalization. It's value first, right? Like you've got to show the client that you're not like, I'm not just sending you a template email that I've sent to 500 other people, right? Maybe you are sending a template email that you've sent to 500 other people, but you did something to personalize it so that they know it's specifically for them and you want to work with them as an individual. That extra touch, it is worth the 2 or 3 minutes. Like it's the difference between like, I'm going to send out 100 cold pitch emails and maybe get a response back from one, or I'm going to send out 10 cold pitch emails and spend time on them and have, half or more, email me back. Like that's the difference. Right. And that could be cold pitches. That could be job ops that you see, in our Facebook group. That could be whatever it may be, where you're finding these jobs. That personalization makes all the difference, you guys. All the difference.
Yep.
All right. So we have some really good questions here. So let's move into a Q&A time. All right. Let's see. I'm just going to start from the top and we'll go. This is a great question. If it's not a good fit. So what if you are on a discovery call and you realize, I just don't think that this is going to be a good fit. Any suggestions?
Yeah. So my personal plan of action on this one is I go ahead and I finish out the entire discovery call as if I don't have that feeling. And then I give myself a little bit of time to think about it and to really dig deep into the reason why I don't feel like they're a good fit. And then if I do end up coming to the conclusion, I just don't think it's a personality fit, or maybe they seem a little too controlling, or whatever it is that your objection is, I'll just send them to an email. And we probably have a template for this too. Abby can tell you. But I would just send them an email and saying, hey, I really enjoyed our time together and I enjoyed getting to know your business. Obviously do those personal pain point, touch points, personal connections, and say, but, at this time, I just don't feel like we are a great fit for your business, because I want you to find somebody who's going to help your business thrive.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go above and beyond, which I like to do, see if you can maybe pass this client on to another virtual assistant that you know. So there was one time in the very beginning of my business that I actually met another virtual assistant who had a very particular style of client in mind that was very much opposite of the client that my ideal client. So we came up with this system of where if I had people that I didn't like their style, I'll just say, I'm not really into the really dreamy clients. I like people who are like, here's what I want. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Now the people who are like, oh, maybe we could create a membership, or maybe we could do a conference, or maybe we could write a book. And you're like,
that is not me.
I'm not going to help you figure your stuff out.
No.
You have a plan. I'll help you execute it. I like that. Yeah.
Right. But the virtual assistant that I connected with, that was who she liked. So whenever we came across a client that we didn't necessarily feel like was a good fit, I'd be like, but I know the perfect person for you. Okay. And we would go about it that way. And then everybody was happy in the end.
I love it. I love that. Yeah, it's so good. And I think just what you said, like you can end off the call instead of being like, here are the next steps. You can be like, okay, awesome. It was so great to chat with you. I'm going to follow up with you via email, next steps, everything like that. And so look out for that email. And then you can sit back. And if you're like, if you come to the conclusion, no, I do think I want to try it, then you have that ability. If you're not wanting to make the decision right there in the moment, if you're in the call, like, I mean, there's obviously things, and I hate that we even have to say this, but if somebody is like being like just mean or rude to you on a call, like you have the right to like stop that call and be like, you know what, I just don't think this is going to be a very good fit. Thank you so much for contacting me, and I hope you have a good day. Click. Like you totally can do that if someone's just outright. I mean, I'm just telling you, there's crazy people out there. So, you know, that's totally can happen. Actually, this might be a good place to ask the second question. What are client red flags? So what are some of the things that could potentially, I mean, so we have a blog post, which again, my team can probably find it. This is why we have a team in the comments. But about like how to recognize, or it might be a YouTube video, how to recognize a scam job. And that would be one. Now, a lot of scam jobs won't even do a discovery call with you. So that's one of the red flags in general, is if they're just like, no, I just want to pay you. I'm going to send you a check and I never even have to talk to you. Well, red flag. It's probably not going to work out so well. But other red flags of if this just isn't going to be a good fit, I think sometimes there is just like that gut feeling of just like, oh, I don't think so. I think the wishy-washy, and again, if you like helping somebody who has no idea what they're doing and you like helping them come up with the plan, but I was the same as you, Sarah. I didn't love, if they were all over the place, it was hard for me to rein them in. That's not my skill set. So that was always a red flag for me, but it may not be for other people. Anything else?
Yeah, I think whenever you see the job ops that people are willing to pay very, very, very well, that's a red flag. Not necessarily for sure thing, but if they're willing to pay you like tons and tons and tons of money for what you're doing, like way above what your perfect hourly rate would be, then that would be a red flag. I'd say the biggest way that you could combat, just getting caught up in scam jobs is to know who your ideal client is. And to make sure that that's who you're marketing to and that's who you're trying to get on discovery calls with. Because you're not just trying to get a discovery call with anybody who will take you. You're trying to get on a discovery call with someone who would be your perfect client.
Yes.
So if you have that in mind, I think you're going to weed a lot of that out. I think you'll also weed a lot of what was mentioned in the last question, the not a good fit, which sometimes there are personalities that just don't go. But if you're looking for your absolute ideal client and you've done that preparation and you've researched them and all of those things, even before you've got on the discovery call with them, you're probably not going to have a big issue with scams or red flags and things like that.
Yeah, I think culture fit is part of it too. Like if there's somebody that you just like, I don't know, if they're super political and you're not super political, or if they're super like, I don't know, like it's just doesn't feel like you'd enjoy working with their brand or what they stand for or their values. Like that's, you're probably going to have that resistance all the time. So I think knowing again, your own, like these are kind of my company values, and these are, because you are forming a company. So what are your own company values and what is your culture and things like that? And will it meld well with the other person? I also think somebody who just gets on the call and wants to like negotiate down your rates. Like I'm a big fan of like, rather than if somebody is saying like, your $500 package, like that's just too expensive, rather than lowering your rate, you could lower what the package is, right? Well, okay. Instead of, doing, I'm trying to think, instead of a 3-page website, what if we just build you a 1-page awesome landing page, and it will have the same thing, but it'll be condensed or whatever it may be, right? Like, there's ways to go about that. But if they're just trying to like cut your rate. Like, I don't know. I think Christy said, don't apologize for your skill or your worth. So definitely keep that in mind. All right, let's see. Oh, here's a good question. Do you record your discovery calls so that way you can go back before you send a proposal, make sure you didn't miss anything just in case they talk faster than you can write? Is that something that you do, Sarah?
I do not record discovery calls. I've never felt the need to. I do take notes during the call, but I have never actually recorded. So no, that's nothing I've ever done. If you do record, I would just say make sure that they are okay with it.
Yeah.
Before you do that. And I could say that maybe possibly one advantage of it. I don't know how you feel if like recording it would be maybe a put off to some people, or maybe make them feel like they can't open up as much. I'm not sure if that's a thing or not because I've never recorded. People may not care.
Yeah. I think in general, I wouldn't, unless if there was like a really specific, again, like maybe it's one of those things that you're doing like tons of discovery calls and you're like, what am I doing wrong? And you're like, I just need to, even if it like puts them off, I need to record my next few discovery calls so I can like go back and watch them, as painful as it may be, and see what in the world I'm doing wrong. Like that could be something, or like you said, I mean, if you want to go back and actually figure out, go back through it. But I don't know. In my opinion, I think taking notes is usually fine. And like you said, it's not as, I don't know. I think there's sometimes people are just weird about being recorded, and that's not a way that you start off the call. Okay, so this is a great question. Sasha asked, do you do a proposal after the call, or do you make the offer like right on the discovery call? Do you just, here are my packages, here's are you in? Do you like try to sign them and on the call, or do you wait and follow up to send them all that information?
So I have actually done this both ways. I really gauge what type of person I'm talking to whenever I do this, but I will say I'm very transparent and straightforward. So whenever I send that first initial touch point email, I'm already sending them my packages with my pricing and my portfolio and everything, so that they can see everything I have to offer. That way you don't go through this whole process, get to the end of the discovery call or the follow-up email and say, okay, here's what I recommend to you, this $4,000 package. And they're like, oh, wait, my budget's $250, Yeah. So if you're sending your information and stuff up front before in that first initial email, and then you get on the discovery call, I don't think it really matters either way. So I think probably the most common thing I do is I say, I think that you would be a good fit for this package or this 30 hours, or something like that. And if they ask what the amount of money is, I'll share all that, and then we'll go ahead and make that decision. If they're like, okay, yeah, that sounds good, then I normally just wait until the follow-up email, and I basically reiterate everything that we talked about that we were going to start with, and which project or plan that we chose in the follow-up email. And that's normally how I go about that. I will say, and this kind of goes back to the client red flags a little bit. If you are doing hourly instead of project-based, which I did for a little bit, you can do, or what I did was a little 10-hour like tester. So if they weren't feeling super confident about booking a 30-hour, 40-hour package in a month, then I would say, well, hey, let's just do like 10 hours and see how you feel at the end of the 10 hours, or reassess. And then whenever you get to that 10-hour point, you can say, this is a good fit from my perspective. Is it a good fit for you? Or it might give you a chance to say like, whoa, I can't deal with this person. They're too unorganized, or whatever. And then it gives you the opportunity to say, I just don't think it's a good fit again. That way you're only ever locked in with your ideal clients.
Yeah, I love that. Such great advice. How long do you normally set for your discovery calls? You definitely don't want to sit down and have this be like a 2-hour call with each client. So how long do you set discovery calls, and how do you ensure that they actually stay that length? I think would be a good follow-up question.
Yeah. So I normally set about an hour. However, that varies depending on the talkativeness of the person. Some people are there to listen. They don't really have a whole lot to say. And some people really want to like dig in and have a conversation with you. So they're normally somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour. And I think the biggest way that you can just stay on task and not let it run into a 2-hour meeting is to have your plan in front of you. Yeah. So you know exactly what you're going to talk about and what you're going to talk about next. That way, if you get on a call with a super, super talkative person, you can be like, okay, well, the next thing I want to talk to you about, and, and then just kind of make that transition whenever you're able to, slip that in.
For sure. I know like there's different calendar schedulers out there. So like Calendly, for instance, you can have it to where like, let's say your discovery calls are 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and that's what they're booking is a 20 or 30 minute call. But you can have it to where it will set it up in your calendar. Like, don't allow calls, 10 minutes before or don't allow any other appointments 10 minutes before this or 30 minutes after this. So if it went after, it's not like another person would come in. So if it went longer. So I kind of like the idea of having your calls be like a 30-minute call. That's what they're booking. That's what it shows up on their calendar, but just in your own calendar, kind of reserving some buffer space on the back end in case it goes a little longer and you are like, you're like, oh, this is my dream client. I don't want to just kick them off the call because I have another one right after, So like, it's worth it to spend a little extra time. Now, again, if you're going like longer than an hour, to me just seems really like at that point, you're probably just giving the person like free advice or free coaching. And that is not what your discovery call is, right? Like you are not there on the call to solve all their problems and to solve their business. It's to let them know about what the next step is. So I think that, again, like Sara said, having that agenda, and it's not just like a pick my brain for free session. That's not what you're doing here.
Yeah.
So good. So good. Okay. We have, here's a couple questions. So many good questions here, you guys. This was about our SavvySystem. So that course it's a recorded course. So it's, and we actually did that intentionally. We do have some live sessions that go on during the course, but our SavvySystem course, which is our signature training program for virtual assistants. It is, it's a pre-recorded course so that you can watch it anytime you want. And it's lifetime access. So it's not open right now, but you can go to thevirtualsavvy.com/waitlist to get on the waitlist for that. And then we also, I think we answered this all day. What are you doing to find clients to book discovery calls with? I think the best thing, honestly, would just be to go to that webinar, thevirtualsavvy.com/BBO. There's a ton of amazing tips in there on how to find clients, how to market your business, how to make sure that you're being purposeful in your marketing, doing value first, all the things that we have kind of alluded to here. Let's see. Other questions. If you book a follow-up call after the discovery call, what do you say, or what is your process for follow-up after the discovery call? So you normally don't book another follow-up call. It's just kind of a follow-up, like email recap of the conversation with the contract and the invoice, right?
Yeah, the next call that I would have after the discovery call would be their onboarding call. So that would be after they've signed the contract and after they've paid you their invoice.
And if you're hourly, that is part of your hours, is that onboarding call.
Correct. Yes, that is a part of it.
You are getting paid.
Yes. So I guess just to be a little bit more like specific about it, I have the discovery call, and then I send a follow-up email that has reiterated of what we talked about in the discovery call. And then at the bottom of the email, it has their next steps. And I just go ahead and link to the invoice if I know what package they've decided with, which normally by that point we've decided. And then a link to their contract to sign it. And then a link to schedule their onboarding meeting. Yeah. So they have everything they need in one email. And if they're ready to go, they can go in, sign, pay, schedule. And then the next meeting I have with him is we're collecting passwords and we're deciding on the first project and things like that.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, we've got a couple more questions here. We'll wrap up with these. Some of them aren't as discovery call specific, but that's okay. We'll just jump into them. What services are you seeing clients ask for a lot? So I guess this is just kind of a broader question, but I mean, I'll share first. I honestly I'm less of a what's the market doing and let me try to fit the market, as more of a what are my skills? What do I have to offer? What do I enjoy? And then you go and find the people who need those things. So that's more, we have a blog post on, 50 skills that you can offer as a virtual, or 50 services to offer as a virtual assistant. And then we have a download that has even 100, so 50 more services you can offer. So I recommend going through that exercise. Again, my team will link to it below. So 50 services you can offer as a VA, and go through that and assess your own skills, and then decide which one of these do I enjoy the most? Which one has the most income potential? Which of these services do I want to do? And then let's figure out where the people who need those services are, because especially now, post-COVID world, people are hiring remote workers. It is just getting to be more and more common. And so it's not so much about just trying to find what are the most marketable services. Yeah, in my opinion. Do you agree, Sarah?
Yeah, I do. I think that you just need to not necessarily form yourself to what people are looking for, but just figure out what fits for you and then do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say pretty much everything is going to be easy to book right now. Any kind of service, because everybody is moving to online, like Abby said. Yeah. So I've seen a lot, particularly in social media and websites, just because those people who did not have an online presence are now oh man, got to get an online presence. Yep. And so there's lots of people scrambling to get those. So I have seen a lot of those types of services for sure. But I would say pretty much anything at this point, post-COVID world, you're going to be able to find exactly what you want to do.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. This has been super fun. Such good information. I know that there's just so much for people to go back and watch and write down. So come up with your plan, practice it, make sure that you are, finding the snag in your system. And such good golden nuggets here. If you are, if the snag in your system is marketing, don't forget the virtualsavvy.com/BBO. That is the plan of, where do I find clients? Where do I look for clients? That free webinar training spells it all out. And at the same time, we do have a free blog post that's virtualsavvy.com/onboarding. That's really an overview of everything we talked about today. It goes into, how to book calls, what does your onboarding process look like, etc. So definitely check out those two resources. All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. Have a good rest of the day, everybody. Bye.